Thanks, guys. I want you to know I just love this church. I have such and so many relationships that I've had here, and just been able to catch up with a number of you, and I hope sometime later I can catch up with a number of the rest of you as well. But it's been a great time for us, this church has a special place in my heart, and I want you to know that, and it'll always be that way to me, because I love the church, and I'm excited about the future, and particularly getting past maybe the past year and a half or more, and I'm just excited about the kids coming back, and hopefully more and more people will start coming back to the services as well. So, but to those of you who are also Zooming tonight, I pray that you'll find this helpful as well today. But our first slide is about the fact that being a man really starts as a boy. And one of the first things that they do is they just take on dangerous things, and don't recognize always what the danger really is. And there's some really great things. And sometimes you go, does he really think the next one? Where we are? Oh, that's the first one. Let's go to the next one. The next one is. Do you think he's going to do that? I just think, wow. I think his dad's going, please don't, But what a adventurous spirit that is. And that's the kind of things that Jesus says we ought to be a lot more like children, And then the next one is, have you ever done this? Yeah. I had a friend of mine that had, he never had any of the childproof outlets in his house. And I said, what if your son does this? He said, he'll only do it once. He was an engineer, so that's kind of the way he figured that was going to be the case. And, the next one is that you're always, what does it really taste like? I always wondered, And this next one here, the next slide is, all right. Now, I guess he really didn't like those plants, Now, I've never done that, but I've killed a lot of grass in my time, And the next one here is that, do you have this kind of a adventurous spirit, having a lot of fun? What it's like to just dive into a pile of leaves. It's just something about that side of it I think is really awesome as well. And the last thing, next to the next slide is, do you think he made it? You never know. So you just hope he didn't land on what is now at the bottom. And then the other thing is, we often take on, the next slide is that we always take on more than we think we can. Again, I just love that slide. That starts pretty early on, where we take on a lot more adventurous things than that. The next thing we're going to see here is a video, and it always moves me in a pretty powerful way. And what I want you to see in this video is what it's like to sacrifice your life for someone in service and making life meaningful for someone. So let's just go ahead and show the video. Now,
this morning we're launching a new series called Today's Real Heroes. Our real heroes today are Dick and Rick Hoyt, better known as Team Hoyt. And if you haven't heard of them yet, be prepared. They are almost legends in their own right, and you'll see right now why they are heroes to so many. This is one of the greatest love stories of all time, a story of a father who climbs mountains and runs to the ends of the earth and back to give his son a better life, a life that transcends the limitations of his body. Rick Hoyt's fight started at birth 44 years ago, when the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck.
He looked beautiful, and he was strong, and he was laying on his stomach, and I thought he was doing push-ups. But what it was, he was having spasms.
The doctors told Dick and Judy Hoyt that their son had cerebral palsy and would never be able to walk or talk.
They said, forget Rick, put him away, put him in an institution. He's going to be nothing but a vegetable for the rest of his life. And we say, no, we're not going to put Rick away. We're going to bring Rick home and bring him up like any other child.
So when the Hoyt family went to the beach for a swim, Rick went too.
He'd sink down to the bottom and he'd look up and start laughing. He played street hockey. We'd just get a stick and push him in a chair and hold the stick for him. We did everything with him that we did with the other two boys.
And Rick responded.
And you look in his eyes, and he was looking right at you, and you could tell that he understood everything they were talking about.
But it wasn't until he was 12 when Rick found his voice, called the Hope Machine, a computer system created by a team of Tufts engineers.
Hopefully people will look at me as an intelligent person and look past my disabilities.
He could tell us exactly what he wanted, how he felt, you know, where he wanted to go. And it got him to go to school, and he got to be able to talk to a lot of other people.
It was at high school where Rick first learned of a 5-mile charity road race for a paralyzed teenager.
And he said, Dad, I have to do something for him. I want to let him know that life goes on.
For Dick, who wasn't a runner, it was a call to action as a father.
Rick told me, he said, Dad, when I'm running, it feels like my disability disappears.
And that was all Dick needed to hear. Now, at the age of 66 and 44, Dick and Rick have run 950 races, 60 marathons, including their 25th Boston Marathon this year. They even started doing triathlons, competing in 6 Ironmans, the ultimate test of strength and endurance. All the way, Dick pulls, pushes, and carries Rick's 110-pound frame over the course of the 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and 26.2-mile run.
So on this day, we're going for a leisurely stroll. This is a slower pace than you two normally go, right?
Oh, this is a nice pace, too. It's a good break.
But they don't slow down for long.
As long as we're still having fun, we're enjoying it, and we're healthy, we're going to continue doing it.
But it's Rick's achievements on the sidelines that are most awe-inspiring.
I may be disabled, but I live a very fulfilling life.
Not only did Rick graduate from high school, but also from college, earning his degree from Boston University. And he now lives in his own apartment.
I have shown to disabled people that they don't have to sit back and watch the world go by. They too can go to school, get a job, and be included in everyday life.
The Hoyt's motto is simply, you can. And they've made so many believe anything is possible.
He's competing in road races, competing in triathlons.
And all of a sudden, all of these videos are popping up on us, and people are emailing them around the world, and it's just a great feeling.
I read them an email they recently received, one of thousands, from a perfect stranger.
I write this because I'm a father, and to my shame, I have been nothing like you, Dick. I have been selfish more than I've been selfless. I'm not raising my son the way I intended to raise him, and up to this point, you could say, I have failed. But yesterday, in a moment's time, I was changed. My heart was broken when I saw how much you must love your son to put yourself through such agony that he might experience the thrill of the race. Yesterday, it became less about me and more about being my children's father. I thank you, sir. You hear this over and over again.
Yes, yeah.
It clearly is, it touches you every time.
It really does, yeah.
But you're more than a father. I mean, you are a hero to so many. Mm. And most importantly, you're a hero to Rick.
I just think of myself, and I just love my family. And I just want to be the very best father I can be.
Get to the point, everybody! Way to go, Ricky! Way to go, dude!
Tear to my eyes, so I Say that because I think it's a great example of, and I thought two things. His example of a dad who's very sacrificial for his son, but also what his son said, just not to let the world go by, not do anything, just to not sit idly by and let the world go by. And I just think that's a challenge, and that we need to really, our next topic then is to be a man. I want you to see that God uses all kinds of men. Abraham. What about Abraham? Abraham was a wealthy man, but also he got nervous. He got excited. He got worried about being killed. And when they went to Egypt, he lied about his wife. He said it was his sister. And so the Pharaoh took her into his harem, and all of a sudden all bad things happened, and he said, what, I lied, so I thought you'd kill me, and didn't take her, and Moses, we talk about him being a murderer at first and kill somebody, but then for 40 years, he's 80 years old when God called him back to say, I want you to free my people. 80 years old. And he said what a lot of us have said. I don't speak well. I stutter. Well, your brother, I control your mouth, but I've never spoken well before. Well, you can use your brother to speak for you. And of course that started, but it didn't happen very long. And God kept saying, and finally he says, can you just use somebody else? And guess what? God got mad. And I think sometimes we as men need to understand that we have a lot of need for leaders. We have a lot more need for people to be servants. And you don't have to have a position to be able to lead other people. You can lead the people that are close to you. You can be leaders of your household. You can have influence on other people. You just don't sit around and let everything go by you and wondering why things are not working when you're not necessarily doing your part to make it happen. And I think that's that's part of what it means. And then you look at Joseph, all the things he went through, and Peter, he was like some of us, always saying things that shouldn't be said. I was telling Perry earlier that sometimes, you may remember I was called the king of inappropriate when I was preaching here before, and my wife was sitting on the front row, and I never looked at her because she was always going, like that. I just, had to look away because I wanted to say what I wanted to say. And then Matthew, he's a tax collector, for a Roman government. Isaiah, Jeremiah, one was really just very connected to a lot of people. The other one was a very, country type of person. Gideon was, we talk about laying out a fleece. You know why he laid out the fleece? Because he wasn't sure God was really going to work with him. So it was really more a test on God, and God was gracious to him. Sometimes we look for signs, we look for some. Listen, the scriptures give us a lot of signs. Let's just listen to those, all right? And what that means and stuff. David, man after God's own heart, and a man after Bathsheba too. So all of us have our faults, all of us have our sins, all of us have things wrong with us, and we think these are the things that hold us back. But listen, all of these people had the same sorts of thing. God used young men, old men, outgoing, shy, brave, people that were afraid first, if they kept the fear, they weren't going to go forward. Educated, not. School of hard knocks, refined, rough. Listen, it doesn't matter what your background is, God can use you. It does not matter what you think the reasons why you can't do. The last thing it was, you can, we can. That is the motto that we need to be having in our own lives is that we can. Let's go over to Titus Chapter 2 and look at this scripture and let's talk a little bit about it. He's telling Titus now, I want you to teach what's in accordance with sound doctrine. Listen, I'm going to tell you these are the things I'm about to tell you. This is sound. This is something that you really got to be doing. And here's what you need to do. I want you to teach the older men. Now, who are the older men? In the Greek, I read two different opinions. One said anybody over 50 was what it was in the Greek days. If you're over 50, you're an older brother. One person said 40, but most everybody else said 50. So let's go with 50. So if you're 50 or older, he says, I teach the older men to be temperate, worthy of respect, self-controlled, sound in faith, in love, and endurance. Let's break this down and let's look at some of the things of what that means. Got to be temperate, teach older men to be temperate. What does that mean? Well, at the root of it, it means you don't drink a lot, and I know that there are times, I've been with some disciples at times that I thought got a buzz. And they thought, well, I wasn't drunk. Well, one translation in the NIV, one translation says, in Ephesians, don't get your stimulus from wine, which means don't get buzzed. Now, it really talks about don't being drunk, but they translated it, don't get your stimulus. I think that, I think if you have to question whether I've crossed the line or not, it's kind of like what I used to tell the teens. I used to tell the teens, if you're always living on the edge, the problem is you never know when the ledge goes off. That's the problem of living on the edge. You don't really know where the edge ends. And I think a lot of people live on the edge as disciples, and it's wrong. You need to stay as far away from the edge as you can be and live on solid ground. And temperate means also to be not only sober in that sense, but to be vigilant, to be clear-headed, to be able to just have a clear view of things. So again, it has at the root of it is you're just not letting things get your stimulus from wine or other things that people have, and so there are disciples who say, well, it's legal to smoke marijuana in Colorado or wherever it is, but listen, something can be, it's legal to get drunk, well, as long as you don't drive, So there's nothing wrong with, as far as the law is concerned. So if you're using the law as your standard rather than the scriptures, something's wrong, all right? So then the next is, it's talked about being worthy of respect, older men being worthy of respect. That means to be having an honorable character. Venerable means, people realize that you are a worthy person. And it says an orderliness perceived in his attitude and behavior. People recognize that his life is working. He's setting a good example is what really that means. And then self-controlled. It means, okay, we all have desires, and impulses. You go to the grocery store or whatever, or any place, and there are always these things at the very end to get you to impulse buy. But there are a lot more impulses that drive us, whether it's sex or whether it's, just appetite or the number of other things. And so it's self-control means I don't let things dominate my life except Jesus. That is, and prudent means worthy, means I know, okay, it means basically that I'm doing things well and I'm able to discern this is not a good idea and that is. That's what prudent means. And prudence is, if you want to see a lot more about being prudent, read Proverbs. I'll tell you, the thing about Proverbs is I know a lot of what it says, but I can never figure out where they are, can never remember, because it's not really in a particular order. You know, it's just kind of random. And so, kind of like my sermon now. Anyway, so it means also to be discreet. You know, you're not necessarily being self-controlled. Means if someone tells me a secret, they're always pretty safe that they know that I'm not going to tell anybody, because I'll typically forget. You know, so it's not necessary, but basically, and somebody will say something and I go, oh yeah, oh I knew that. You know, but basically, if someone tells you something and you're to be discreet about it, then you don't go around confessing other people's sins, and you're discreet about your own, what you say and how you talk to other people. Sensible is another kind of another thing there. The next one is sound in the faith. It means soundness means to be in good health. It means it's a good quality. And here it is not sound in the faith of what you believe. It's talking about trusting in God. There's one thing to believe the truth, and you have to have. There are certain things we got to believe just simply to become a Christian. And the most important, the thing we always applaud, is that Jesus is Lord. The question is that a confession we make every day? That's what it's supposed to be, all right? And so sound in faith means I'm living out what I believe. It has affected the way I act. And also so it's our faith and our trust in God. And the problem is, as we get older, sometimes trust in God gets weaker, because we have, quote, been hurt, we've been damaged, we look at different things, and it affects our faith. It's one thing to say, I was talking to a sister the other day that has been through a lot, more than I think. Well, it's just been a hard life in the last several years, since some of it, anyway. So I told her, I said, you have had a lot of heartache, more than most, but I am so impressed that you are still faithful. There are a lot of people that simply they lose trust in God when they need it the most. When you're going through tough times, that's when it really shows whether you have trust in God or trust in yourself about God. It's a difference between living out your Christian life for God or living out your Christian life with God and because of God. And so, there are brothers and sisters who died for their faith, and they're still living and dying for their faith in different countries because of that. So we're going to have to really trust and not, as we get older, become more cynical and that. So, and then the last one here, or this other one, is that to be sound in our faith or in our love. We know that agape love. It means a concern for other people, and you know the command to love God, love our neighbor, and to love one. And Jesus said, the new commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. The standard is to love like Jesus loved. And, I think sometimes we don't like, some of us, loving like Jesus loved. He gets out of the boat and he walks on water toward Jesus. He looks around and sees the waves, and he gets scared, and he starts to sink, and he turns to the one who could save him. He knew it could save him, and he said, "Save me, Jesus, save me." And Jesus grabbed him and pulled him up. And you know what he said? "Why did you doubt, you of little faith?" He walked on water. And Jesus said, "Why did you doubt, you of little faith?" What did that say about everybody else in the boat? What I'm saying is, we don't like being told, "Get behind me, Satan." We don't like being told, "You need more faith. Your faith is so little," because you doubt when times are really tough. Why are you doubting, you of little faith? It's a time that you need him the most. And so, again, we got to love more and not grow cynical. Fault finding, fault finding and cynical and criticism, which are too often the reputation of older people. And I realize that that there are times when some things do need to be challenged. But challenged and critical is two different things. So it's a perception, it's a point of view. The next one is sound in endurance. So characteristic of a man who has not swerved from his deliberate purpose and his loyalty to faith. In other words, love endures all things. That's the definition of love. And I think, we've got to understand that why become a Christian if we're not going to be committed to death? That's what, and he says, as you're older, this is something you're going to have to really endure, because the thing is, if you're still faithful after, I was baptized in 1968. So how many years is that? I've been a disciple for 53 years. So I became a disciple when I was 20. You can do the math. All right. Let's look at the next thing. The next one is about young men. We've been talking about old guys. What do the young men mean? Similarly, encourage the young men to be self-controlled. Period. And he's talking now to Titus. He says, Titus, as a young man, you need to set an example by doing what's good, show integrity, seriousness, soundness of speech that can't be condemned, so those who oppose you may be ashamed because they have nothing to say bad about us. So I think even though that's talking to him as an evangelist, I think a lot of the things are things we all need, but particularly, all he says about young people is to be self-controlled. Why is that? Well, basically, I was reading a lot of stuff about, what? And this is what I determined was the reason. Because young men are controlled a lot by passions and in ambition without a lot of wisdom that older people have. And that's one of the reasons why older men are to be setting an example. And why is that? Why do older men, to be worthy of respect, basically it's to be an example to other people. I did a research on the census of the metropolitan area of Columbia, which includes the county, not just Richland County, but the metropolitan area. This is what I found. That people who are, and let's figure that the older people are 50 and above. That's what it says there. Older people, 50 and above, make up 34% of the population of the metropolitan area. People from 20 to 50 make up 39% of the population. And then it went from 10 to 19. And so if you say 10, which is when most kids start noticing what you are as a dad. It's 10 when they start thinking, he says this, but I see this. They get, and of course when they're 13, it seems like everything has changed. But the bottom line is that what it's saying is that if you're an older disciple, you need to be setting a great example for the younger men, for them to follow. And I would say as well, part of what is needed is the young men, and I would also suggest that the older men ought to be hospitable to some of the younger people, to be able to have relationships, find out, build some build some trust with each other. I think that's something that older disciples really need to start doing with some of the younger disciples and relationships. I mean, that's what changed my life, was what made me become a minister, was because of people. And you know why I came to, because I was raised in the Church of Christ, but I had no idea about what it meant to be Jesus as Lord. Baptized, had no idea what I was doing. I went to church when my mom said, "Have you been to church?" All right, I go. And then I got, "Oh, yeah. But then I wouldn't go back for a while. So I wasn't committed at all. But I knew, probably had an idea. But one day, the two elders of the church in Crossroads, Brother Bartley and Brother Whitehead, came to my dorm room and asked if they could get with me. So I borrowed the room next door, a single room from my guy beside me. He let me use the room, and I met with them, and they said, "JP, we haven't seen you at church. We want to know, is there anything wrong? Is there anything we've done?" And I said, "Nope, it's me, not you." And that visit changed my life, and that was in probably April, May, and I was baptized then in the following December when I finally understood what all that meant. So I say this, that older people can have a tremendous impact on young men. The two elders there changed my life. Now, obviously, other people had more, I was discipled by some older people as well, but you just need to see what that can do. And again, what does it mean to be self-controlled for younger people? Same thing. I think particularly curbing your desires and your impulses, not letting your emotions drive you, and to be prudent, to know what's the best thing to do. I think sometimes we ask, "Is this okay?" Why not ask, is this the best thing I can do? I think the best ought to be, and prudent, I think, means, okay, and I think I would say it's prudent to seek the best rather than what's okay. So I would say, again, there's some scriptures. I want to just close here with a couple other scriptures about being a man. So the next one is in 1 Kings Chapter 2. In verse 2 through 3. And it says, "I am about to go the way of all the earth." This is David talking to Solomon. "And so be strong, and show yourself to be a man. Not a wuss, not a guy that's just kind of getting along. I want you to be a man, Solomon. And I want you, and here's what it means. Observe what the Lord your God requires. Walk in his ways and keep his decrees and commands, his laws and requirements, as written in the law of Moses, so that you may prosper in all you do and wherever you go." And so I just thought, what he wanted his son to be was a man. Be strong, be a man. 1 Corinthians in chapter 16, verses 13 and 14 says, "Be on your guard, stand firm, persevere, persist." That's, basically firm as I'm immovable. I'm going to persevere. I will persevere. You're not going to talk. You're not going to move me off of this. And persevere in the faith. Be men of courage. Be strong and do everything in love. So, again, not just your relationships, do everything in love. A love of who? How about love of Jesus motivating everything that I'm doing? We think about love. When we say that, a lot of times we're thinking of specific people or different things. So that's also important, but that's a second command. The second command, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. With every fiber of your being, love God. That's what Jesus was saying. All right? And so the Greek word here for be of courage, the big word of the courage and drizomai, to show yourself to be a man, to be brave. All right, that's what it means to be firm, or to have courage. And to be strong means be firm or unfaltering under trial. Means you're not going to, I'm strong enough to take the hard times. And quite honestly, James says about the fact that, the trials come along to basically develop your faith. We see it as a test of and we go, I don't know, we doubt. And when it's all meant to help us be strong. For what? For other trials to come along. It's kind of like, it hurts when I run, but you know what? It helps you later, to help you, anyway. And then Joshua, what God said to Joshua, no one, in chapter 1, no one will be able to stand against it all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, I will be with you. I mean, when Moses died, it said there's never been a prophet or anybody like Moses. And God is saying, as I was with Moses, I will be with you. Have you ever heard the phrase, I will be with you? Yeah, where have you heard that? Yeah. All right. And so God is saying, hey, you know why Moses was so great? I was with him. And I'm going to be with you. You know why some people do well? Because God's Holy Spirit lives. We have something even better than what Moses had. We have God's Holy Spirit within us. Perry talked about us being the temple. We are. I will never leave you. I will not forsake you. God is not a forsaking God. We wonder, where is God? God never leaves you. God never stops loving you. Even when he's challenging, and even when when he put the people into captivity, it was, hey, it's gonna be, but why am I doing it? Because I want you guys to come back. I want you, he did it for love, to bring the people back. I will never leave. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land, and I swore to your forefathers. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Don't turn from it for the right or left. It's again what David said. Don't let, and what is it going to do? Don't let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night so that you can be careful to do everything written in it. I think we need to spend a lot more time thinking about what the Bible says rather than just reading it. How about thinking about it? How about meditating on it when it says it? Then you'll be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. This is the third time he's told him, be strong and courageous. And do not be terrified, and do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Now, why would he say, do not be discouraged? Because there are going to be some hard times. There are going to be some people that are going to say, we settled on this side of the land, and we don't really want to go over here to help the rest of our people settle the land over here. We like Manasseh. We like this side. We like being on this side of the river. We're settled over here. Do we really have to go over there and help? But don't let the naysayers discourage you, for the Lord your God will be with you. And again, let me look at what these Hebrew words says. Kazak, to strengthen, to prevail, to be hardened, to be strong. This is about, to be courageous, to grow firm, to be firm, to grow firm, to be resolute. And so it's strong is sometimes translated as also courageous, but it's basically I would say that being strong means I'm resolute. Resolute means this is what I believe, this is where I take my stand, and you will never move me off of Jesus. Have I had hard times in my 53 years as a disciple? Yes, many times. I got out of the ministry for 11 years because I didn't like what was going on at a particular point in time in the ministry. And so but did that mean I lost my faith? Nope. I probably taught at church more than most people on staff on Wednesday nights. I led community groups. We converted a lot of people. We decided when we got out of the ministry, two things. I don't know, two or whatever it is. One was we were going to forgive anybody who sinned against us. Number two, we decided that we were going to be just as committed out of the ministry as we were in the ministry. It's just the job, it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of faith and commitment is the issue. Because there are a lot of people that are in ministry that are not hard workers, that are not giving their whole life to the task. Quite honestly, to be honest with you about it. And that's not what I think about Perry, by the way. All right. The other word is hamatz. It means to be strong, to be alert, to be courageous, to be brave, to be stout, to be bold. Courageous means I'm not going to hold back. I don't know if this is going to work or not. How do I know? Well, I got to try, I'm on the skateboard over this big ramp. I got to at least try. I think sometimes we're just not courageous in what we attempt to do. Sometimes we're more concerned about being safe rather than being bold, rather than being brave, rather than being courageous. And so I just challenge all of us to be men that are going to be courageous, to be resolute in what we do and what we believe, and hold on to that. So here's the final thoughts, our review. Strong, firm, unfaltering under trial, to prevail, to be hardened, to be courageous, to be firm, to be resolute. I want you to be courageous. I want you to show yourself to be a man. I want you to be brave. I want you to be alert. I want you to be stout. I want you to be bold. I want you to be solid and hard in everything you attempt to do for God. Where are these qualities needed? The question. Leading your wife and your children. It means that you're going to have to lead as a husband and lead your wife in prayer. Be spiritual. Be the spiritual leader of your family, not be the boss, but you're to lead like Jesus led. He's the standard of love. He's the standard of leadership. He's the standard. You're to love your wife like Christ loved the church. We all know that. And then I think we need courage to speak the truth to one another in love. I think that takes some courage to tell somebody, brother, I'm concerned about some of the things that you've told me that you're doing. I think you're going to have to make some serious changes in your life. I want you to make it. I really love you, and I want you to be in heaven with me, and all those things. You just got to be bold about some of those things, and you got to be bold to be different at work or at school. My fraternity. When I got in the fraternity, I went to a fraternity because I was lonely, but then I became a Christian while I was pledging for the fraternity. And actually, I already was a member of the fraternity, but then I had a reputation then for being radical as a Christian. And some people came to church with me. A couple of guys out of my fraternity became Christians, but it wasn't easy to have a stand like that. And I'll tell you another thing. I went to a party once. After I became a Christian, I went to one major party at my fraternity. And I stopped doing it because one of the guys said to me, I wasn't drinking. I had a Coke, not a rum and Coke, a Coke. And I had a date that I had and a friend of mine that, anyway, so then this fraternity brother said to me, "What are you doing here raising the hell of the rest of us?" And it made me think, what kind of reputation, what kind of example am I setting by being at the same events? They don't know what I have in my drink, and they don't know what my intentions are toward my date that they had toward their dates. So I think we need more leaders of community groups. We need, and I would say this, two things. I would say if you currently lead a community group, you need to find a right-hand man. You need to find someone, trust someone to help you then take the lead of that group at some point. So hopefully it'll grow to the point that it needs to split, hopefully. But at the same time, you need to develop leaders because we just need more. It takes relationships and time to do that. It takes courage also to be evangelistic, quite honestly. It's a lot easier to be silent. It's a lot easier to do that. And I think that, how do we get there? How do we get, and I'll close with this, I think. No one, Joshua 1, no one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, I will never leave you or forsake you. Be strong, be courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to you. Be careful, this is how we get there, to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful where you go. God is saying, and if Jesus said, imitate me, and so I think that's what we need to do. Let the book of the law never depart from your mouth. Meditate on it. Be strong. Have I not commanded you? Be strong. And do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. I think we're going to have to understand. And some of us, that's just it's very easy for us to get there. And so we just need to, again, how we're going to trust the fact that God will always be with us wherever we go. Be strong in the Lord. And Paul says this in Ephesians 6. Be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. We have the power more than anybody in the Old Testament ever had. We have God's Spirit living within us. Pray for me that when I open my mouth, words may be given so that I may fearlessly make known the mystery of the gospel, which I'm an ambassador in chains. We need to be praying this and praying for one another, to pray that I may declare it fearlessly as I should. Brothers, I want you to be men of courage, and I want you to be strong, and I want you to be men that other men are going to know and say, this is a man that I would like to be like. This is a man that when I've got trouble in my life, I know that if I come to you, you're going to help me. That's the kind of people you can be on your jobs, you can be at school, in your dorm, wherever it may be, in apartments, whatever your life can be. May God be with us. And I just, again, love you guys and appreciate what you give me so much time tonight. Thank you.